the way that I would liken it is we're never going to consistently outperform the story that we believe is true. And so when you upgrade the story, you'll automatically perform at a higher level and you'll do it consistently. And performing at a higher level consistently is actually what creates more success.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again. Thank you very much, as always, for taking the time to join me. And today I'm joined by business coach Matthew Stafford, who is here to talk about the importance of emotional intelligence and authentic connection in entrepreneurship. Matthew has helped thousands of entrepreneurs take their businesses beyond the $1 million milestone using actionable, data-focused strategies. As managing partner at Build, Grow, Scale, he's guided brands through rapid growth, but what sets him apart is his deep focus on the personal side of success. Matthew leads a unique men's coaching space focused on emotional intelligence, trauma recovery, and authentic connection. Having spent decades mentoring entrepreneurs, Matthew has seen firsthand how both mindset and practical strategies combine to spark lasting growth. His work empowering store owners to refine their approach isn't just about the numbers. It's about building resilient leaders who truly believe in themselves. And Matthew's dedication to lifting others up starts with his own dedication to the work that he does on himself. And I am very, very much looking forward to talking about that here today. Matthew, thank you very, very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. So I always like to get a bit of background in the beginning, Matthew, in terms of the journey that you have gone on to both enter into the business entrepreneurial space to help men and others possibly, grow their businesses using actionable strategies and such. But where the deeper layers came in, away from the, if I could say somewhat superficial, that's my word, strategy, process, steps, methodology, and really saying, you know what, there is something else to this here. There's a human element, and there has to be something deeper in order for this to be able to go. How did that all come about for you based on your previous experience and your life journey to that point?
Yeah, I would say the best way to describe it is I'm the common denominator in everything that happens in my life. And so when you consistently build something up very well and then subsequently crash it, eventually you got to quit blaming circumstances and say, hey, I'm the common denominator. What am I doing to cause that? And when I was vulnerable enough to ask myself that question and want the real answer, that's when the insights came. But as long as I was willing and able to blame it on something else or a circumstance outside of myself, then I was really at that point, I was giving my power to those circumstances and I was helpless to solve it.
Yeah. And what was the catalyst for you to then say, okay, there is a common denominator. Okay, I feel like I'm ready to face the circumstance and my role within that. Was it a pivotal moment? Was it a series of moments that got you to that spot?
Yeah, it was. It was about a little over 4 years ago now. It happened. I had a partner in BGS, and him and I started to go separate ways. And I also had a relationship, and that also was at the point where we were getting ready to make it permanent, and both of them fell apart at the same time. And I just remembered saying to myself, like, wow, this is it's not just circumstance. Like, again, exactly what I just said, I'm the common denominator, and even if it's not my fault, what am I doing to contribute to the circumstance where I create this type of pain and struggle in my life? And one of the deeper truths that I got to through the journey was, to me, suffering equaled strength. I had witnessed my parents struggle most of their life and, stay together when arguably they shouldn't have. But I had learned that, okay, no matter how hard it gets, I'll always stay, and suffering equals strength. And so I kept thinking like, oh, I'm strong enough, I can fix it. When a lot of times I was picking people that would produce that struggle instead of choosing myself and getting better myself.
Powerful. You know, one of the key things that really resonated with me there in terms of strength, you know, and where the strength comes from. One of the more prevalent things I think in most people's lives and history up to this point anyway has been the ability to navigate struggle. And you mentioned suffering there as well. Do you see struggle and suffering as synonymous with each other, or in some way they're complementary to each other?
I certainly believe that they could be synonymous. Uh, Obviously, I don't believe that life is struggle free, but I do believe that we create a lot of the struggle and it's unnecessary.
Yeah, and then it becomes I guess, a relationship with the struggle to then
Yeah,
say,
becomes a way
do
of
I?
life. Yeah.
Yeah, is it a way of life? Do I appreciate it? How much do I create it? Do I enjoy it? Do I endure it? You know, is it debilitating? Is it uplifting? And then it's a different conversation you're having with yourself depending on how you frame it.
Yeah, if your whole life was full of chaos, you get dopamine hits from different forms of chaos. So when things are going good, you think something's wrong and you create chaos in order to get that same familiar feeling. And our
Yeah.
brain doesn't care if we're happy, it just cares if we're alive. And so when we're doing something new or something that's different than what we've conditioned ourselves to believe the way it is, we're not getting those dopamine hits. And a lot of times we'll wreck a good thing in order to, because our brain thinks like, oh, this is too safe. It's not gonna, it's not gonna turn out well.
Yeah, it's fascinating in terms of the connectivity of struggle, suffering, you know, strength, and things like that. So one of the things that we talked about prior to recording that I was absolutely fascinated by was your investment in yourself, which you know has come over the previous number of years here, and in specific terms, that the dark retreats that you have gone on and you've journaled about. You were kind enough to share it with me too. Why dark retreats? What were you expecting or hoping to get from that? And at the time of recording, you've completed two thus far. Talk me through the journey of why, how, where, and what.
Yeah. So I had a coach and also a mentor that I follow online, and they had both done it. And within 12 months, their lives had radically shifted. And so I thought, and my coach actually recommended it to me. He didn't give me a lot of details. There's really not a lot of details online either about it. So that's part of the reason why when I got out, I journaled immediately of what my experience was from day to day so that I could share it. And it was so profound for me. I wanted to share it with other people. And so you're welcome to attach that to the show notes if you want to. But
Absolutely.
my experience was that a lot of the stories and decisions that we make are so unconscious, we're not aware of them. And so things that we avoid or the way that we think life really is not the way it really is. It's just the way we believe it is. And so when you get into an environment like that, where there is zero distraction for an extended period of time, there's nothing to do except for to examine your thoughts. And most of the time, the reason why I think we're addicted to distraction is because we don't want to go deeper with the things that are painful. We're avoiding it. And in that environment, you get to stay with those thoughts until you get to the bottom of it. And what I experienced was amazing. And then over the next 3 months after I got out, it was almost like every week or 10 days, like these old limiting beliefs that I had just kind of like I shed them and became more focused at work, became more present, became more deliberate, authentic, all of these different things that these old beliefs prevented me from doing now felt very natural, and like my way of being shifted, and other people in my environment recognize the exact same thing. And that was even after 2 or 3 years of a lot of deep, intensive work. The dark retreat was just like it peeled back all the layers that I was afraid to expose or that I didn't even realize existed until I did that.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned you were doing some deeper work prior to that. Do you think the dark retreat compounded on the work that you had been doing before and became some sort of freeing catalyst to say, we acknowledge the work that's happened. This is in some way really became so immersive that this all comes to fruition now and gives you that opportunity?
Yeah, I certainly, I'm not discounting all the other things I did. I will say that the timing of it was perfect for me, and it literally gave me what I would consider my life back. It reminds me of that saying Carl Jung says that until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll go through life and call it fate. And what happened in there by surfacing feelings and thoughts and beliefs without any distraction, my mind was able to see what was making those decisions. And then it naturally shifted to, instead of being that, 5-year-old, 7-year-old boy making these decisions in an adult world that tended to create, more problems. After seeing them as a 50-year-old, my brain goes, oh, okay, that was then. It's not true now. And it allowed me to let go of it. And I've made much better decisions. And doesn't mean I'm perfect, but definitely I've shown up in a massively different way. And it's benefited me across my relationships with myself, with others, in my business, even how I handle, my team.
Yeah. So talk me through it. You go in for multiple days. You are in complete pitch darkness in the room that you're in. I'm assuming that it's soundproof as well. There's no distractions from outside.
You can hear noises outside, but it's pretty muffled. Like there was a rooster. The first time I went, there was a rooster, so I could hear him crow in the morning and at night,
Right.
which was kind of good for me because it gave me some sort of time frame, because otherwise
Yeah.
you really have no idea. And when I got out and shared what I was going through with the host lady, she gave me some timelines as to when she brought food, and then I ended up fasting for about the last 71 hours of it. So that, again, that took away the, oh, okay, I'm getting food in the middle of the day, to I have no idea when it is.
Yeah.
And the experience is the last time that you've probably been in extended darkness or in darkness for an extended period of time, you were in your mother's womb.
Yeah.
So there's not really anything to relate it to as far as what we experience now, other than it's so dark. There were several times I put my hand in front of my face and was trying to see it. It was so dark you can't see it. So there's zero distraction, and the only thing that you have is your thoughts.
Yeah. And were there any guidelines that you were provided, Matthew, before you went in, where they said, this is kind of a typical journey, that there are going to be moments when you will experience this, moments when you will experience that, moments when you might want to leave, and the best thing you can do in these moments is insert whatever guidance and advice that they would give you? Was it you're kind of left to your own thoughts and work through your journey on your own timeline?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, yeah. Here's a notepad. If you can scribble some words on it and stick it in the chute, and I'll get it. And she explained that she's been pretty good at translating it. Thankfully, I have neat writing, so there wasn't any issue there. But yeah, she doesn't talk to you. There's no communication, and so it really is meant to be some sort of sensory deprivation, so that you're not looking for external things in order to prevent you from going inward. And it just it happens very naturally.
Right.
On the third day, typically your brain will start to produce DMT, which is a little bit of like a hallucinogenic. So on the third day, I personally, like, my brain turned the lights on in the room, and I thought, oh wow, like it got so uncomfortable with the darkness, it changed my setting, and it was the exact room, everything. thought, well, I'm gonna go back over to the bench, and I got up and walked right into the wall. So it wasn't reality. It was just my brain created something in order to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons from that, and I think one of the most profound lessons that I got from the experience, was when our brain is uncomfortable, it will literally make up a reality in order to make us feel better. It doesn't mean it's true. And so for me, when I got out, I'm like, how many other places in my life is my brain created a reality that I think is true, and I just haven't walked into the wall yet? And so
Yeah.
it helped me start questioning a lot of things that I felt were true that may have been limiters. And it allowed me to grow through a lot of them very quickly.
Yeah, and it's no longer a metaphor; it's a literal experience
Yeah.
that you had. So, if I go back to day one, you go into the room. I guess you could see some things because there's a door open or something like that. Get your bearings. The door closes. What's the first 1, 2, 3 hours with Matthew on his own like? How was that experience for you?
Both times I went there and I arrived just before sunset. So we walked out to the ocean, watched the sunset, and then went back to the room. And I blew the candle out and went to sleep. So it was very gentle to do it that way. Uh, and then I just woke up in the darkness after getting a long, long sleep. In fact, I didn't ask a lot of details the first time. I just was excited to try it and experience it. She goes, yeah, people tend to sleep a little longer than normal. And I didn't think anything of it. I normally, I go to bed early, get up early, usually go to bed by 10 and I'm up at 5.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll wake up at 8 a.m. But what I found out is when I talked to her later, she brought me food the first day at 2 p.m. and I had just woken up. So I had literally slept half the day
Yeah.
in that first experience before I woke up and thought when she brought the food, it was morning.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. And so on the journal that people will get a chance to take a peek at, you had a bit of a brutal experience towards the end. You're on day 5. You've whatever's happened, you're at a point where you wanted to leave, and you're
Yeah.
saying, "This is enough. I am literally or physically approaching the door handle to go." What led up to that, and then what happened at that point?
Yeah. So what I found out later is that when you're fasting like that, it tends to enhance the experience, makes it stronger. And so by day 5, um, the chemicals that our brain produces basically made it like a constant hallucinogenic. So I would close my eyes, I'd open my eyes, and I just was constantly seeing different images and places and all this other stuff. And it was just like I couldn't sleep, I couldn't get any rest, I couldn't get any relief from it, and I just wanted to be done. And so yeah, there's twice that I had my hand on the door, and I remember thinking to myself, well, if I walk out, I'm going to be disappointed and I'm going to be miserable until I come back and do it again. So I can either just stick it out, and you really have no idea how much longer it is because you don't, by day 5, you have no clue what it, when's morning, when's night. And so I thought, like, I'm just going to figure this out and I'm going to stay because I'm committed to it. And the suffering's temporary. So I would rather, even if it's a whole nother day, suffer for a day than for the next 6 months before I come back. And so I chose to stay. And I'm really glad I did. I think in that experience, I shared the benefits of it to myself,
Yeah.
and just proving to myself that I could still do the hard things when I needed to. Because the older we get, the more, we tend to, I would say, we give in to comfort.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the easiest path, because a lot of times comfort creates a lot of other issues. And I'm not saying we should constantly be in pain, but being able to deal with that. Life is always going to give us, different challenges. And if we're not able to keep going without losing our momentum, then I think that a lot of times we get stuck in a loop of do good, do bad, do good, do bad. And I want to be able to do good and then do a little better and then do a little better, even when the challenges come. Use the challenge as a stepping stone rather than as it knocking you down and then you having to start over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so profound. And I loved what you said earlier, that it was almost like I'll say epiphanies, that's my word, not your word, that you experienced, the growth opportunities you experienced, the clarity that was bestowed upon you in the months afterwards. There was, the experience you had in and of the moment, the deciphering of the experience and the immediate aftermath, and then the longevity of the benefits from there. Was that something you expected at the time? Was that something you anticipated?
No, I didn't. And it was actually, I think it was probably the best part of the experience because, you have the experience itself and then for it to continue to give you more and more and more benefits afterwards. Everything else that I had done prior to that, different plant medicines and things, like a lot of times the experience is confusing. You have to kind of make meaning of what's going on, where in this experience, you're 100% present, you're 100% in the moment, you don't have to make anything up. It's literally just you and your thoughts, and it becomes very clarifying. You don't have to try to make sense of what the experience was. Instead of, for me it was just a lot clearer.
Yeah. And then, so Matthew prior to dark retreats and Matthew post dark retreats, in terms of your business service, your business offerings, how you deal with, how you coach entrepreneurs to scale to where they're at, what would you say were the major differences between pre and post dark retreat for you?
I would say presence, to vulnerability. A lot of times we think that when we share the parts of ourselves that are unlovable or that they won't respect or like, that will create a separation. And I found that sharing the parts of myself that I struggle actually creates a much stronger connection. So our brain really lies to us that, like, oh, if I share this, I'm gonna lose my friends or I'm gonna lose my clients. And what I found is that when you start sharing your story, you give other people permission to do the same, and it creates a much deeper connection.
Yeah. And from a business success perspective, if I could use that word, have you noticed a discernible difference between that in terms of whatever your 100%. Major measurements are?
Yep. And the way that I would liken it is we're never going to consistently outperform the story that we believe is true. And so when you upgrade the story, you'll automatically perform at a higher level and you'll do it consistently. And performing at a higher level consistently is actually what creates more success. So you don't create the success, sabotage it, go back to. I use the analogy of a thermostat. Like if your life is what you're comfortable with and it's within the story that you believe at 70 degrees, and if good things start to happen and all of a sudden it's 80, 90 degrees, what does your brain do? It turns on the thermostat and cools it back down to 70. So all these good things that you're doing, instead of experiencing them and then building off of that, you tend to turn the thermostat on, cool it back off, and get to where you feel comfortable. Or if things start to get worse, you figure out a way to turn the heat on and get it back to 70 degrees. So what I would say is, once I got out of there, I had a new set point at a much higher level. I was able to maintain that and also have the tools mentally to, when I noticed what I was doing, to reinstall the integrity with myself and keep that higher level and without sabotaging it.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned in the journal specifically was about rebuilding your life. When you're interacting with entrepreneurs or business owners that are looking to scale, firstly, what do you mean by rebuilding your life? And secondly, do you see that in some of these entrepreneurs, business owners that you're dealing with And are you able to help them start to construct what that actually means for them?
Yeah, I believe most entrepreneurs have a similar journey, because when you share your story and you get back, oh wow, I dealt with that too when I was growing up. Oh, I did. It's very similar, and so essentially, I forgot what I was going to say. Them having that, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are trying to create this external success in order to feel better inside, to
Yeah,
change their story. And when they create the success, they realize that that external thing doesn't make them feel better inside. And it's either very deflating or um, they just think, oh, well, more will make it better. More will make it better. And they're trapped in just a different loop.
yeah,
So I would say that, yeah, helping them understand that the work is actually inward and then the outward results will show up much easier than looking for something external to make us feel better inside. And we see it all the time with, famous people that kill themselves or struggle with all kinds of addictions because they
yeah.
thought when they got there and got all that fame and money that that would make it better. And when they get there, it's so empty and that's not actually what they were looking for. They're very deflated. And sometimes
Yeah.
that happens with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and it's so great to be able to recognize the patterns. Not so long ago, I finished Will Smith's autobiography, and the book ends before the Oscars incident that he had. That was a big changing moment in his life, and he talks about that. He talks about, it's very well written. It's written with Mark Manson, and he talks about the journey of, it was always to be the biggest movie star in the world, not always, but as he started to grow in his career and see that that was possibly attainable, it was to be the biggest movie star in the world. And you could see, either through inference or by direct quote, that there were very negative connotations and consequences with his family, and with his lifestyle, and with the way that he was actually conducting himself in the workplace and in space and such, and very, very honest and open about that. So I often wonder if he'll produce a second autobiography that says, right, okay, I'll start from where I ended last time. This is what happened, and because it looked like he was doing that journey. And it makes me think about what you were saying earlier, Matthew, in terms of some of the deep, intensive work you were doing prior to the dark retreat that gained some level of results for you. And then the dark retreat was something certainly that gave you an opportunity to move in a more positive, affirmative direction. It seems somewhat similar for him. I don't know what his struggles are truly, but they're certainly born from his youth and his upbringing and his family values and his experiences to that point. So that really resonates in terms of, the journeys for most people are fairly similar, and
Yeah, we all have a story of I'm not good enough. And
yeah,
so we tend to spend a lot of time trying to prove that we are worthy or that we are good enough instead of
yeah,
believing it and then producing from the point of believing that we're good enough.
yeah. Yeah, it would be wonderful if we could flip the switch, or the
Yeah,
script, I should say.
we can.
Yeah,
We can.
yeah,
And when we do, then that's when the transformation takes place.
yeah, yeah. How would you recommend we do that? Someone's listening right now. They're in university. They're approaching university age or just out of university, embarking upon their career. How, like, are there a couple of simple steps that you would suggest to them to say, this is how you do the inward work prior to embarking on the external?
Man, how would I say it to do it in a simple way? It actually is simple when you figure it out, but I think one, you have to be ready to actually be willing to do the work because it's not simple. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah,
And so I guess the simplest way is to be radically honest. And most people don't even know what that is because we've lied most of our life in order to get people to like us, or we've only shown the good parts of ourselves because that's what we think will be accepted.
yeah,
And I think with radical honesty comes a lot of healing and growth because when you can share exactly what you're feeling, hopefully in a tactful way, sometimes not happens,
yeah,
but when you do it in a tactful way, you'll be shocked that your brain's been lying to you all along that that's going to hurt you when really what it does is it creates enormous results in a positive manner.
Yeah.
And it allows you to actually deal with the things that you feel inadequate or ashamed of in a healthy way, and then move forward.
Amazing. I'm going to share that last 90 seconds with my university undergraduate class every single week between now and the end of the semester, so that they know they have permission to proceed, that they are important, and that this is important as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. So this is a question I like to ask all guests in terms of what's one regular practice that Matthew employs to give him the best opportunity to be the best version of himself each and every day.
Yeah, so I journal, and I've journaled every morning since the October before COVID, so about almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Or a little over 5 years. And the second thing is I meditate for 10 minutes every morning. And then the third thing is that I learned in the dark retreat is when I have a sensation or a feeling, I close my eyes and I just feel through it. Instead of distracting myself or ignoring it or avoiding it, I literally just view it and don't make it right or wrong, good or bad, until it kind of just dissolves.
Yeah.
And so consistently things like that will come up, or different experiences in life will bring up these old stories or these old feelings, which is just a story that we've stored.
Mm-hmm.
And when I process it, that story stops making decisions for me, and I'm a lot clearer. So those three things are pretty much a staple in every day.
Profound, absolutely profound. Before I let you go, Matthew, where can people find out more about you and your business and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, our main business is helping people, online, to build and scale their business. So it's buildgrowscale.com.
Yeah.
And my email is matt@buildgrowscale.com, and I see all my emails. So if you want to email in or have some questions or like to have a chat, just let me know, and I'd be happy to jump on with anybody.
Tremendous. I was so looking forward to this conversation. I'm so glad we got a chance to explore all the fascinating work you've done and the positive aspects that have been the outputs from that, specifically on the dark retreats. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Matthew. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.